This is Bobby with Franklin 3. So I'm going to start making some videos on some of these guns we take completely apart when we do our Cerakote process. So this is a Canik MC9L METE. I don't know if you say that MET or METE, but it's what it is. So we've already got the sights off of it, the barrel and stuff's out. If you can't take the barrel out, then you don't need to watch any more of this video, so I'm not bothering showing you that. But we're going to take this completely apart because when we do our Cerakote, we do just the frame, so it's all the way down. So this one's a little bit different than some of the other striker fire, where it actually has a metal butt plate here on the end. And it doesn't have the same keeper, whereas like on your Glocks and some of the others, you have a sleeve inside here that your firing pin rides in, that it comes up and keeps pressure against your cap plate here. So it's a little bit different, but this is part of your safety system, and I'm going to show you that real quick. So if you just try to push the firing pin, it doesn't go anywhere. So when you pull the trigger, the first thing it does is actually drops stuff on the floor, then you pick it up later, is it pushes against this. And what that does is it allows the firing pin to go all the way forward. So when I push this in, I can push my firing pin all the way up, and you see how it's actually out. So it's going to contact with the primer of your round. So that's kind of one of the reasons striker fires are safer than most people think they are. This is your loaded chamber indicator. So we're going to take all this apart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap this pin out. And as it comes out, I just go all the way through with my pin. And I'll kind of flip it like this so I can keep pressure on this side, because I don't want that pin flying across the room. Tracking it down is Shelby's job, and she gets mad at me when I do that. But so I'll just tap it all the way through with my punch. This one's a little tighter than most of them are. Let's see if I got the right size. Yeah. All right, so once that pin's out, my whatever this thing is called. No, it's a punch. It's called a friggin' punch. All right, that's what it's called. It still holds everything together, so it's still going to work like possible. When you pull your punch, just make sure you got good pressure and everything, because there's a little spring in here. We don't want to lose that, so we'll take all that out. My secret is I bag every little component with all its pieces together, because you'll find when you get into some of these little oddball guns like your Stogers, they have a lot of springs that look similar, but they're different tension. So I know all of those right there go back together in the same way. I'm going to take off the optics plate real quick. You can kind of use it in these holes, not down into the threads, but just the top part of the plate to kind of get a hold of it, and then see it's just fits so tight. So we'll take that out. Once again, we'll bag all this up, keep it together. All right, so now we're down to our pin mechanism and the safety here. So this has to come off. Now on the Canik, because this is a metal, it actually has a detent in there that if we push down on it, we can slide this out. Now the trick is to take your thumb way on the other side of it, so when you pull this thing back, your thumb is what's keeping everything from slinging everything across the room. So we got that off, and now then this whole thing will come out. So that's everything. Now, don't just start pushing stuff, because we still have our extractor and we have this safety mechanism to deal with. So we got to figure out how those come out. Now that we have that out, always look to see if there's a sleeve in here, and it looks like there is. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but there's a small sleeve in there that basically this seal rides inside that sleeve. Sometimes it just falls out, sometimes it's kind of pressed in. If it's pressed in, we just leave it alone, we don't worry about it. But it looks polymer, and they do make some tools to pull them if you need to, but for what we do, we don't need them. So now we got to figure out how the extractor comes out, because usually there's a pin, so you can see your extractor pivots right in this area. I don't know if you can see that or not. So it's pivoting kind of like right in here. So I don't think that's a pin, because it may be, I don't know. So we're going to poke and prod on a few things. Hopefully we're poking on something that does something. Okay, so now we got this up. All right, so that, okay. All right, that's kind of cool. And so that's our extractor. There's the big spring in the back of the extractor. This piece now will come out. And so you can see how this is designed. See how this safety, when the extractor is in place, the extractor is what's keeping that in place. So now that we push this pin down, the extractor can come out, which now frees this up. And it just comes right out with a little small spring on it. We're going to keep those parts together. And so this is the last piece we got to get out. You can tell it's got a spring in there of some sort. There we go. So there's our spring. So that's actually the keeper for the extractor, and the extractor keeps that that safety mechanism. Now the only thing we do have still in here is that sleeve inside there. I don't mess with that, because if I'm working on a gun, I'm doing some Cerakote, we plug these ends anyway. So I'll just cook it. I'll treat it like it's polymer, even though it's all metal. I don't want to Cerakote this at 250 and kind of reduce the integrity of that sleeve. So as long as if it doesn't move, she stays there. All right, so that's it. That one's completely disassembled. So after I get done with all my Cerakote, whatever we got on this project, I'll come back and reassemble it, and I'll walk you through that process too. All right, this one is done, and yes, that's the design they wanted. They're New York Knicks fans, so we make them happy. But so we're going to put this back together, but before we do, I'm going to kind of show you how these pieces work together, because it's a little different on the Canik. Remember how we had this piece that locks it in place? It's not a pin that goes all the way through. We also have this piece, which is part of the disconnect, part of the safety of the gun, and so this only goes in one way. So I'm going to drop it in, kind of give you an idea of how that works before we start putting springs with it. So when that's in, you can see how the extractor sits right in here, and that's what keeps us from going too far in, too far out. But it's all put together with a spring. So we got a little bit of trickiness as far as putting it all back together, because this all has to go together with springs in place for it to work. So I'm going to put the spring in it. We're going to install that. Now I'll oil it all up at the end. I usually do piece by piece as we go, but right now I'm not worried about it. See, that goes all the way in. It'll sit like that, but it's under pretty good tension. And we've got this piece that has to go in, because that's what the extractor pivots on. So we're going to put that in. All right, so that has to go in all the way. So I'm going to grab us a punch. Now, real quick, I'm going to talk about different kinds of punch. So you've got a roll pin punch, which has a little divot on the top that mimics the center hole of the roll pin. Then you got a flat punch, and then we have starter punches, which are designed to hold the roll pin so you can hold them in place. If you're putting roll pins in and you're using needle nose pliers, and you need to get some of these, this is they're worth their weight in gold. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a flat nose punch, and we're going to kind of start putting this where it needs to go. And remember, we got a spring that goes in there, so we're going to put that in. And we're going to use this to keep tension on it, because we want to kind of put it in the right place to begin with. And remember, we got to push this in. far enough to get that started. If all goes well, I won't be catching this on the other side of the room or sending Shelby to look for different parts. Forgot, I gotta actually lock it in the front side first. Because remember the extractor, well, that should be fine. Okay, so that's almost in place, but now we got to get this down where it goes. Nope, went too far, so I got to back it back out just a little bit to get this to where so now we're going to line up. So that's in place. That's good. There we go. So the pin just popped up into place. So now we've got this pin with spring tension on the back side, which is what everything pivots on. This part of the extractor holds this in place. So this works like it's supposed to. This has to be in place before we put our firearm pin mechanism in, and I'll show you why that is here in just a second. So the next thing we're going to do our loaded chamber indicator. So what I always do is I'll just take a roll pin punch that's the right size, and I'll stick it in there and make sure I've got everything I need. But what I do is I use that roll pin punch as the primary pin until I get the new one installed. So here we've got a spring, we got the chamber indicator, and then we got our roll pin. So what I'm going to do, get my spring where I want it. This in place, and I'm going to use this. So that's assembled. So now I don't have to worry about chasing springs, it coming apart. It's all together. So now I'm going to use a roll pin punch, the right size, to start this. So what I'll do, I don't know if you look, you see that pin is actually a little bit out of shape, so I'm going to just take a needle nose. I'm going to make sure I shape the end of that. So all right, so I will keep some tension on that pin and just try to start this. If it don't start, I'm just going to want to fight me, and I'm going to have to reshape the end a little bit. Yeah, she's wanting to fight me, so let me reshape it. All right, let's try that. There we go. So now you see it starting. So I've used that to get it to a point to where I don't want to impact the side of my slide with this. Some guns have a bigger recess so you can go further in, but since I'm right there at my slide, I'm going to stop with this one. Now, I won't use a roll pin punch just yet. I'll always use one that's a little bit bigger just so I can kind of work the face some. And what I'll do is I'll tip that over so my pad holds that in place, and I'll just kind of, I know you can't see it because my hand's in the way, I'll try to hold it like this. And the secret's not hitting it hard, it's just like steady taps until it's where you want it. And what I don't want to do is I don't want to get down and mess up my Cerakote finish because it looks really good, because we do really good work on that. So I'm going to go down to a smaller size pin and keep doing the same thing. Now at a certain point, so like now my pin is actually holding everything together, so I don't need this one anymore. So now I can just turn it over, I can get it where I want it and just keep tapping her down. Now once I get it pretty much in place, you can see it's just a little bit out, then I'm going to change to my roll pin punch, and I'm going to try to work it in the rest of the way. Now I don't like that pin. That pin's wanting to open up on me, so I'm going to try the roll pin. If that don't work, I'm going to go back to a flat for a little bit further, because I don't like to not put it back exactly like it's supposed to be. Yeah, I'm not liking that. So I'm going to change this one. I'm going to keep going until I get it where I want it. Okay, that's in. Now I'm going to go back to my roll pin, because my roll pin will let me kind of set it in. So I don't know if you can see that well or not, but that is set just like it's supposed to be. Now our chamber indicator works like it's supposed to, so when you get around in there, it pops up. That's perfect. All right, so next we're going to work on, we're going to put in our firing pin and spring. Now, the way this works, if you see out on this side, you actually have a cutout in the firing pin. So this works in conjunction with this piece on this side to keep it from accidentally firing without the trigger being pressed. That's what that's for. So now I am going to put a little bit of oil in here. I just like to put a couple drops. And then I'm going to come all the way in. So our firing pin is here. Okay, so that should all be fine. So now we're going to put our rear panel back on. Remember, this has to come all the way down. So let's get that started. That clicks in place. That's good to go. Now all we got to do is install the sights, put our optics plate back on, and this is good to go.